Alright, gonna start the stream a little early and then see who joins later. This is a wrong website. I'll start whenever you're here, Billy. Let's see, my website is set up. Ads are no good. Let's see, I'll start some ads since nobody's here. Still setting up. Let me see what. I think I have a couple of Boukenger images. Boukenger-Kaizoku. Slide myself over here. Good. Man, it could be a while before Billy gets ready. I gotta go mail him. Alright, welcome back, Billy. Let's see how everything's set up. Not sure if you're in the chat, but I see you're on Facebook. So let's start with Boukenger and what I thought of it. I viewed a couple episodes, and then, for the most part, not much changed. It sort of reminds me of a Judlin series. Great pilot series, great pilot episode, and then later on, sort of starts to fade. Like sort of like the Disney era, where like it's really good in the beginning, and then it gets worse later on. They don't know how to finish the series, which shows you why maybe you should just not let the series end. So yeah, great pilot episode. The sound effects, the production, the camera shots, all very good in the first episode of Boukenger. Very memorable, so much to the point that I couldn't review it for its 10-year anniversary. 5 years later from now, I hope to get that down really well. Like all the henshins, the suits look very shiny and customizable. Although, if you see up here, I don't know if you see up here, like they don't. I don't know if they photoshopped it or whatever, but they still sort of look cheap. The characters were well written, well diverse. I like how it's everyone's a fighter, even though like my morphin worked because Billy was a little bit weaker, and then all of them, the first two were the weakest, and then they could still fight, and then they build off that. This team, Natsuki was a little weak, I guess, but like everyone was pretty good. My main problem with Boukenger though was after they introduced the Sixth Ranger, they didn't know what to do with him. Echolarg even mentioned how he hates Operation Overdrive, yet really likes Taizan, at least the original Taizan, before he got destroyed by bad Disney executive decisions. Now, this Six Rangers is one of the weaker ones, although Six Rangers in Japan haven't been particularly strong in the first place. Like, if he wasn't, maybe it's because we're not, because we're. I was a Super Sentai fan. I wasn't a Godzilla fan, so I didn't really care about the actor's lineage. So as a result, I didn't really care about certain things about him. It was cool they did all the homages with the mechs to past mechs, or past enemies with past mechs. Sorry, I got that in reverse. That was a cool detail. That's sort of like, as I mentioned before in a previous podcast, how it was like the Force Awakens of. It was sort of the original Force Awakens where you have this spiritual successor to Luke, spiritual successor to the Leia, etc. And then you just mix that all together for a sequel. That was pretty cool. The fourth episode was one of my favorites because it had to do with like this dark death about. I mean, I don't know if it was like the most surreal thing or Lynchian thing ever, but it was like something memorable for you to really get hooked onto the character early on. It's like when Trakina dies, or like another death in like Saban by Jardlin that you would remember very well. That worked pretty well in that series. Yeah, Bully agrees that the pilot was great. I'm going to adjust my windows here so I can see the chat. I didn't like how Ryu-On never had a moment where he actually beat Book and Red, and I felt like even if he had like only one win against him, it would have added some drama to it. As a result, you always knew Book and Red was going to win. The Natsuki, what I should have rewatched it for was the Natsuki arc. It was really cool how later on, like, she was the weakest one, she was the klutz, she was the ditz, and later on, she was like the very powerful one in the end, which is really cool. I don't think that factored into the end, but it was still pretty cool. That paid off pretty well. The whole relationship between Broken Red and Broken Pink was pretty cool. I would have liked, just before I forget, I think I will cover the ending of the show because that final line in the end was pretty cool. And since I'm doing Geki Ranger for this year, I'll definitely do the crossover, which I haven't watched for a long. I've never watched the whole crossover actually, which is pretty cool. And because I don't like Geki Ranger, I don't want to until I become a reviewer. I don't like finishing shows because I don't want to ruin the moments for me. But when you're a reviewer, you gotta finish everything, otherwise you don't get views. I did make a really cool adaptation of Boukenger in my fanfiction series, and I think it was very enjoyable. I think it's a lot closer to this. I get the why Operation Overdrive didn't work, and why it could have worked better in the Neil Saban series than a Disney series, even though Disney was better than Neil Saban this year when I review Operation Overdrive. Some of the shipping was weird. Like in the beginning, they shipped Boken black with yellow for some odd reason, and then later on, the actor even said that was a mistake, and he really said he had feelings for Boken pink. Of course, that's not even canon because it's away from the show interviews, but whatever. Then Boken pink is shipped from red to silver to red again. I'm trying to remember all the episodes. It's a very good use. I don't think there's ever been such a good execution of the Ginga Man. It's sort of like an Alliance of Evil thing. And they could have done that in the American version. But I felt like they executed that fairly well, the American version. And then when they had the Frax payoff, that was pretty good. We'll on to Operation Overdrive later. Yeah, for me, in retrospect, I loved the series because the beginning was so strong and they did certain stuff so right. But other than the actors and the characters, for the most part, it was only a 20 episode series. So it wasn't the best series ever. Although in retrospect, I don't think most since the franchise has been around such a long time. Not every series, not even some of the classic series have been as great for such a long time. It's not always done by auteurs or whatever, and they tend to be formulaic. And then they get lazy and do something stupid and offensive. I mean, this one was clean at least, but speaking of which, my brother did not enjoy me showing Boken Red's butt crack in the Boukenger movie, which I thought would have hooked him on to the thing because I completely forgot about that thing. That was not what he was looking forward to, and I can't blame him. The Questers sort of screwed up that formula they had with the original. I would say the five Senshi they had for the Boukenger enemies, and then because both the Senshi, both the Boukenger Senshi and the bad guy Senshi got screwed up. The pacing of the show got screwed up because they couldn't figure out how to write the extra characters, I think. The Questers didn't really do anything. They had that when they were introduced, it was pretty cool. But then I felt like they should have been killed off immediately because they just had nothing for them. And I felt like when they killed them off, it helped the show a bit. That finale was really strong, though. How do you feel about Boken Pink going from this military badass to just liking desserts later on? In retrospect, she was very inconsistent in her character, which again hurt the show. Book and Blue was consistent. He was constantly the womanizer. Book and Black was a little bit softened up later on, although he was still like the anti-hero badass. I start to compare him with like Gao Yell in that respect, like supposedly the badass, but then later toned down. It's a shame they didn't do much with those guys. Boukenger vs. Magic Ranger, I felt like they added Aka Red, and they emphasized him opposed to the really cool already Boukengers, which I felt hurt the show. Overall, yeah, that's pretty much it. It was a 20. It's basically what they extended to a 50 episode series, but it was really like 20 episodes of like actual good quality stuff, great quality stuff, and then lackluster in the middle, possibly good, possibly average stuff later on in the show. On to Gokaiger. It was a little bit of a mess. I can't blame him because like having an anniversary show like that where so many, I mean the show's been on forever, and bringing back anybody would be great, but like you don't have the original writers. You have people. If you've been on the show that long, you still might not remember everything that's happened, and if you've not been on the show that long, you don't remember what happened. You weren't there when the fans were theorizing all these things going on and stuff. Just some stuff was just poorly done. The Samurai Kid episode was really cool. That was classic Sentai and Senshi. I felt like that was the dark tone of the series. They had the earthquake or the Fukushima shuffle, which screwed up everything. I debate that would have been made the show darker if that didn't happen, but I don't know for sure because I don't know any Japanese citations or could have interviewed anybody who would have told me about that. If you're not reading my fan fiction, I basically consider this the Japanese Mighty Morphin Power Rangers with Gokai Red as Jason. Was it Gokai Blue as Jason? Gokai Blue is Jason probably. Gokai Red is Zach. Gokai Green is Billy. Gokai Yellow is Trini. Gokai Pink as Kimberly. Gokai Silver. I like what they did, but I'm not going to say what they did because, like, let's leave it for the Megaforce review. How they introduced Magic Ranger was pretty good, although it could have been better, although I don't think it was that bad in retrospect. Because he has magical powers. He can do freaking anything. Yeah, they introduced him first, so like everything's downhill from there, power-wise. Power scale-wise. Woo. Like, in this thing, they could have had him versus Magic Red versus Gavin. I mean, that's the thing, you know. They had temporary guest stars as opposed to like having them long term, which I guess would have affected their budget, but I don't know. Like that's the thing, like, you know, Kamen Rider, Kuga. How are you gonna bring these guys back when they're making money elsewhere? You know. That's the problem with development, especially if they're popular. This is a bit more organized. But I really don't have much to say about it. Gokaiger, I felt, summarize it. Actually, I won't summarize it because I didn't summarize it in my head yet. I'll summarize it in the end. I didn't like the writer, but like, he's a good marketer. He has plot holes in the storyline, but like, what can I say? Everything has plot holes nowadays. Like, you're 30, you don't care about plot holes, you care about making money. This show did that very well. That's the main positive I have to say about the show. It didn't have the most ratings, like classic 80s Super Sentai, but the merchandise was definitely very good. You have these 99-cent keychain things, make so much money if you like collected them. There's like everybody hated buying that box that had like that one key that nobody had, but it was like $30 to buy it, so nobody wanted to buy that thing. I mean, I liked. It's definitely more. I mean, Go was on before it, not Go Onger. The one before it just wasn't produced well. It didn't have enough money to complete the show or make the shows more fluid. It was toy marketing done to extreme where it wasn't. It felt cheap and I guess it could have been one of the worst shows of all time actually because like it felt very incomplete how they did it. So I understand why people dislike that one. Gokaiger, while having plot holes, at least felt like a complete show. Like, I just liked how Naruhisa Arakawa made it like a Bara killer, like this evil guy, but for some odd reason people sympathized with him. Even though he's like immoral. Call me like this left wing guy, but like I didn't really find anything interesting about that character. He just wanted to kill people, which is not something really admirable. But the actor did a really good job, which I guess is admirable. But it wasn't the writers. You shouldn't credit the writer for that. I mean, the fact that they were able to do all the transformations was really cool. Like, imagine if they had a farting sound effect every time they transformed each Gokaiger into another Gokaiger. Like, that would have ruined the whole show, and they didn't screw that up, which is very important. So that you always appreciate about Super Sentai, like, just the fact that you're able to do certain stuff, certain stunts, and certain production things very well. And maybe it's because, like, I watched the 80s Super Sentai, and even then, there's, like, Mask Man, offensive jokes somewhere there. Like, this seemed pretty clean, at least. So, although it had a lack of an edge to it after the Samurai episode, the kid. Oh, speaking of which, the episode with Samurai Hime was pretty good. I felt like you could have learned a lot more about Gokai Blue, although to the writer's credit, he did a lot better job than I thought he would have, and it was almost on the level of Boukenger level of writing with Gokai Blue. Although it's sort of my bias for that I never believed that it was fully immersive, but again, that was probably my bias. Gokai Yellow's storyline was really thin, like I don't know if they should have had more made Gokai Yellow, considering how little they wrote her. Like, they didn't really write anything interesting about her, other than that she wanted to go home or something, and it just didn't go anywhere. Gokai Pink, that was written really terribly. They made her Gokai, maybe because of scheduling issue or whatever, but Geki Red shows up and teaches both Gokai Green and Gokai Pink very early on how to do martial arts. And I felt like, shouldn't that be the payoff for them in the end? Unless you want them to be the best martial arts master and then be the final boss in the end or something? Like, why did they introduce that so early? I like the Deca Ranger episode. The Deca Ranger episode was well done. Jasmine, they did the Esper thing, which is pretty cool. Ban wasn't annoying. And Shadow Master was pretty cool. I would like him to fight Gokai Blue, though, because they're both the sword experts. But or they could have had him bring him back another episode, which would have been pretty cool, but they never did that. There's some mention of Deca Ranger and I think in the Gavin episode, which is going to bring up again the Gavin Deca Ranger episode this year. This movie this year. Overall, I didn't find most of the crossovers that interesting. Zero Ranger 1 was that interesting in the end. Let's see. Let's go back. The movie was pretty interesting. I like that one. The crossover with the last season. Okay, Shinkenger was good. Uh, Go I didn't watch because I didn't like Go but it probably was a lot better than I remembered. I probably should watch that again. Because, like, I've. Just because it's family friendly doesn't mean it's bad. Like, there might not be any crossovers. It was a little weird that it would blow them up as such a powerful weapon, but we shall see. I don't know about you, but I didn't think the Go should have had such a powerful weapon. I mentioned the Gokaiger episode. The Boukenger episode was weird. They had it in the movie and then they had it again in the series, and both of them were very weak. Magic Ranger I mentioned. Decker Ranger I mentioned. Ob Ranger. What's the Ob Ranger episode about? It's probably very memorable. All these crossovers again weren't that memorable, and I would preferred. Barber Red was alright, but I would prefer to Barber Black just because of my personal bias, even though he obviously was the best character. Hurricane Joe was an excellent episode. That was another memorable one because you had ninjas and pirates, and I don't know. In retrospect, though, when I rewatched it, as I mentioned in my review, it was a little lazy just to come up with the exact same suits and then rename them Junior. Like, they definitely could have done something better than that. Like, they could have had a ninja episode, like, introduce Hurricane Ranger, introduce Kaku Ranger, introduce. They could have done so many ninja crossovers with that one, but they didn't. Okay, back to number 5. See, Guy Ranger. Time Ranger, that was alright. I didn't know that much about Time Ranger, and I don't think they had Yasuko write that episode, although I could be wrong, and it seemed very tame compared to what they could have done. Also, it didn't translate well if you did only watch Time Force, because, like, their characters are completely different. GoGo 5, she's a nurse. That was it. Ginga Man. That was early. That was weird. I don't know why they had Guy. Like, why would you have Guy talk to Ginga Blue opposed to, like, actual Magna Defender or Bull Taurus or whatever his name was? Mega Ranger. I think the car Ranger was hilarious. I wish they had more Car Ranger episodes. They should have done some Car Ranger. That wouldn't have happened, but, like, I would have liked it if I don't know. I'm well aware I have a lot of my biases when it comes to Gokaiger, but, like, it would have been funnier with. I think a lot of people would have enjoyed it if Car Ranger was around for longer. I mean, they had Boken Red show up like multiple episodes. They had They had Umiko show up one episode. They had Jasmine and the other guy show up the other episode. That really was so many people just showing up randomly. It could have been a lot worse. Like, it wasn't for me, obviously. It was for people who liked big comic book events that were done not perfectly, but, like, actually completed. Just complete them is very hard. So that was done fairly well for them. Fans of, like, Black Lantern and all those kind of crossovers, Crisis on Infinite Earths, Infinite Crisis, that kind of stuff. I mean, I rewatched it. I did enjoy it, although, as I mentioned, a couple episodes I am considering rewatching just so I can finish it off. Probably the final episodes I'll rewatch just to finish off and see if I enjoy any better. I watched it with the Reviewtopia crowd, and they were a little bit rowdy, and a little bit too overzealous. Maybe if I just had some quiet time to watch by myself, I'll enjoy it better. I have a couple weeks to do that before that happens. We shall see. So, any thoughts on what you think about Boukenger or Gokaiger? What are your thoughts? For my summary of Gokaiger, the fact that it was done was pretty good. Crossovers, some were excellent. A lot of them were throwaway. Like, it's just very. I mean, a lot of people pass away. You know, it's a lot of. It wasn't that easy to do. So I give him credit for that. But overall, it wasn't a masterpiece. I don't know what the overall thought process was with it, but obviously in the Japanese ratings, it wasn't like it catapulted them to like the best thing ever. Although it did boost them up like 1 million, I think, or something, or 1% or something, which is pretty good. And I thought that was pretty cool. Could have had a better writer, but like I felt like people were right. I was aiming for something they weren't wanting. I should let it be like that. Like right now, it's amazing. You know, before I was in the Disney era, I was like, I'll complain about this stuff, but like now I'm in the Neil Saban era. Like that stuff's alright. Let's not get too greedy there. Let's just settle on something that doesn't look like absolute crap and Z movie stuff, and that's good enough for me now. Shows you that I'm a true Power Rangers fan and watch stuff that's not necessarily a lot of stuff that's mediocre, but at least some of it's not awful. And you know they do certain production stuff for it. Like my brother, when he watched Megaforce, he's like, "Wow, they could do the morphing stuff." It was obviously the Japanese footage, but at least they did some stuff right. They made some sets. You know, like there's positives, and you got stick with the positives. The good thing about management is that you got to think ahead. Don't panic. Don't blame everybody. You got to fix the problem. And I felt like with Ninja Steel this year, they're finally fixing the problem. Like that pilot episode, that didn't look cheap. That looked better than the movie probably, and that's a good step ahead. So maybe right now I should introduce what I'm doing this year, or plan on doing this year. Let me look at my notes. Okay, anniversaries. I'll probably just do Mighty Morphin. I should do it right now, even anyway, just because the movie's coming out. Uh, Anniversaries: Zoo Ranger, Mega Ranger, Hurricaneger, Geki Ranger, Goanger, Power Rangers, Turbo Ranger. Power Rangers Turbo, Wild Force, Operation Overdrive, Mega Force. Some of the stuff might even be redundant because, like, I already showed it. Kamen Rider, Ryuki, Blade, Deno, Forze, Metal Heroes, Gavin, Latalder, Exceed Craft, Tak. And there's a little bit of interesting Hurricane trivia about it being. Why is it so significant to me? Oh yeah, hey Billy. Yeah, keep telling me your thoughts on Ninja Steel. It does look. I mean, it was all original footage, which is pretty cool, and like it didn't. It could have looked a lot cheaper. Like I don't know. Maybe it's because I would say like maybe because I knew the camera angles were so bad, but like maybe it was something else. I don't know. I felt like if I didn't know the knowledge that I knew that watched Sentai already, I wouldn't have reacted so badly to Samurai. But we'll see. I'll look at my notes again. Okay, yeah. My There's a little bit of history. I am doing Hurricane Ranger this year, and I'm probably going to do it right after the Ground Ranger. And some interesting stuff about Hurricane to me, because this is some history of Hurricane, Jetman. I think it was Exceed crap, but don't quote me on that one. There was Metal Hero, and there's Kamen Rider O's. What is the significance between all those Toku? And if you can guess it, which is probably nearly impossible, I can't even give a prize, but I don't know. Maybe I'll give you props or something. I don't know. I'll see what kind of prize I come up with, but if not, no one's going to get it right anyway. But if anybody can figure out the connection between those four Toku, then that would be pretty interesting. So basically, those are my plans of the year. Hopefully you enjoy. And that's all I have to say for this podcast. Hope you enjoyed. See you later.